I'm going, let's put this, all messages. I'm going to get my chair all set up, but I just wanted to get started. I got a couple of early Christmas presents, which is always cool. It's always fun when your friends get you stuff for Christmas, friends that know you. It's always a lot of fun. Let me grab them and set them up here. It's a mess out here, by the way. Have not been doing a lot in the way of filming lately because we've been really busy. So, yeah, a couple of early Christmas presents showed up, and we're gonna take a look at them. I'm also working on something for a friend. He has a Gerber Mark II dagger that has some rust on it, and we're trying to do some rust removal. Hey, what's up, Aiden? We're trying to do some rust removal on it to see how that's going to work out. But yeah, I'm just grabbing my stool here. So I did get, how's the audio, by the way? I did test the microphones before this, and it was working fine. It was working fine when I was testing it, but I don't know how well it's working right now. Bark Keeper, good audio. Okay, cool. So yeah, the daughter on Saturday night had a skating show, and we had some friends stay over and stuff like that, but that's not what we're here to talk about. One of these early Christmas presents is from me to myself, but I did use my friend's points. So I can't really say that it was a Christmas gift, but it was. It was a Christmas gift to myself. The Bluetooth devices, if my daughter leaves, we will have to... matter of fact, let me turn that off right now. Well, I can't turn it off. At any rate, so I got myself something with my friend's points on Blade HQ. He was like, hey, pick out what you want. So it was kind of a toss-up, whether it was a Christmas gift to me from him, or if it was a Christmas gift from me to me. But at any rate, I picked out, you guys have told me for a long time that I needed to try out the Cold Steel Espada. And I told him what I wanted, and he got it for me with the points, and it came. And he goes, why didn't you get the more expensive one? And I honestly have to say, I don't like the look of the premium version of this knife, and I don't like the steel it's in. So I thought that I would give this one a try. So this is the large Espada. So this is the Cold Steel large Espada. This is a very, very big knife, and there's some surprises that came with it. There are some surprises that come with the large Espada that I was not expecting. This is not the XL. So these are done in AUS 10 and G10. A couple reasons. I have seen the premium Espada, the large Espada with the S35VN and the micarta handles and bolsters. They're thick. They're thick, and they are only right-handed. They don't have the reversible pocket clip you get on this, but they're thick and they're rounded and they're all polished, and I like the stone wash that Cold Steel does. So I'm pretty impressed with this, not just because of how good this is, and this is the more budget-friendly version, but also because this carries so much easier than I ever thought it was. And there's 15 of you guys here. There's only one like. If you're here, drop a like. I'm not asking you to drop super chats or donate to the channel. All I'm asking you is to drop a like. It definitely helps with the algorithm when you guys do that. So this came, beautiful stone wash on this. It is very, very sharp. This is new, so this should be post GSM buyout, which means that the edge on this was great. It was a little coarse, so I stropped it and I hit it on a ceramic hone. I have not filmed the video about this yet. Out of character, I typically do a first day in pocket, but I've been enjoying carrying it. The thing that surprised me is how easy this carries. You put this in your pocket. I'm gonna tell you right now, the ease of carry for this great big knife, and to put things in perspective, this knife is 9¼ inches, right? This is 9.25 inches. This one is significantly larger. It carries as comfortably as this does, if not more, because of the thin profile and the way it sits in the pocket. So, and like I said, guys, please start dropping likes. It'll entice more people here. It'll kick us up the algorithm. But I shouldn't be surprised because Cold Steel for years has made these very large folders. And they've done a really good job. I'm trying to bring you guys forward. Let me know if the audio changes and I'll reconnect the microphone. It's really easy to screw up these microphone connections on this. You're a little farther away than I want you guys. They, for years, have made these knives so easy and comfortable to carry that it's just insane that love from India. Well, hello, everyone that's joining from India. These come in 3 sizes. There's the large size, which is this one. There's a small one, and there's an extra large. And the extra large is just, it's way too big. I've seen those in person. I'm like, that's insane. But I do owe everyone that carries these. Ken Sheik Singh, hello, how are you? Hermang, if I'm pronouncing it properly, welcome to you too. Please drop a like, guys. The ease of carry on this is just ridiculous. I literally had this in my pocket. Okay, so I had this massive piece of steel in my pocket. And it is, keep in mind, I wear XXL gloves. I had this in my pocket and I was looking around the house for it because it carries so comfortably. I forgot I had it in my pocket. So the weight on this, I have the box. So everything's marked on the packaging and I don't know where I put the box. There it is. So this thing is full size. This is the G10 large Espada, 5.5-inch blade. I tagged you, Joe. I shared the post that you put up with where you called me out and I was like, hey, go check out this channel. I'm pretty sure I tagged you in it, but yes, I did respond. I shared that video that you did. So yeah, 12.25 inches overall on the large Espada. So it's, yeah, if you're looking for sword stuff, go check out Joe. But yeah, I shared that. Go check out my community posts. It should be the newest post I put up. I have to grab something real quick. I have managed to, I cracked a nail. No, I caught my fingernail on something. Now there's a rough spot. I've got knives everywhere. I don't know why I'm just not grabbing a knife. So, sorry, doing a little bit of stuff here. No, Joe, I definitely shared that video. Amazingly comfortable to carry. I just can't get over how this large knife carries so well. And I will tell you, it carries in pocket as comfortably as my military 2. If not more comfortably, because the angle it sits at, it doesn't have a spot that pokes up and gets you in the side. I can't imagine carrying the XL, but this large one is really good. And like I said, it's, let me see here. In pocket, it carries really cleanly. I don't know how well you guys are going to see that. It carries really cleanly in pocket. It doesn't have any sharp angles, and it does just wave out of the pocket insanely well. Now, there's limitations to it, and I have a video coming where I'm going to talk about how some of the cold steel knives. Joe didn't respond to the fact that I did respond to him. I guess Joe doesn't respond. He said hi to Aiden, but he didn't fucking say, oh, sorry, I didn't see that. This is another one of the large cold steel. This is a Raja 2. It's time to blue Raja, mother. That's all I can think of anytime we talk about this knife. This is a little bit bigger than the Espada, but this is another knife that carries really well. You can see it's a little bit bigger than the Espada. This is their folding kukri that they make, the Raja 2. And this is a great knife. And this one is broken in so nicely. Mine will over time. This is another knife that you put it in your pocket and it carries really well. Not as much, because there's a lot above the pocket clip on this massive beast here. Here's the thing, Ed, and I'm going to talk about it in the video. While I do like this and I dig this, I don't think that I would really carry this for self-defense. It's a bit big and unwieldy. You got to find the happy point, the happy medium for something where you feel comfortable using it as a self-defense knife, but it doesn't get unwieldy and get in your way. There's a happy medium there, which is why this is typically what I'm carrying. If these days I'm either carrying this as a self-defense knife, or I'm carrying this folding Pikal. So these, I feel that these knives allow themselves to be a little bit less unwieldy. They're a little bit more nimble and things like that. Oh yeah. Well, he doesn't own it anymore. Lynn Thompson sold the knife, sold Cold Steel. He sold it to GSM. And they've been pretty faithful to his designs. I've got a little tub of stuff out here for something I was working on. But yeah, I've always been amazed by how comfortable the larger Cold Steel knives are. I had a Spartan. I had a Cold Steel Spartan. It carried beautifully, and that's a big knife, and it was comfortable in hand. It was light. It also was not a knife that I would, it's, you know, also not a knife I would carry for self-defense. But this thing's really good. You got a really good grip on it. You're not going to lose grip on this. This is the Night Guard 2 that is done by TKL Knives, Tim over at TKL Knives. They're great. I'm not going to deal with trolls today. So yeah, I got this. This was a gift to myself, basically. So do I have I have several Japanese swords. As a matter of fact, there's 2 of them here. I took Japanese swordsmanship for a long time. There's 2 of them over here. As a matter of fact, one of them I used to cut a sandwich in a video here recently as part of a challenge that my buddy Scab over at Choir Boys Cutlery did. But yeah, the fact that these are so easy to carry, being so large, just amazing to me. And then once this breaks in and the spring tension's not as stiff on this, it's going to be a lot better. But even these thumb plates that Cold Steel use on their knives, they are great. Just even to thumb roll open the knife. Now, I am going to do what I've done on my other ones. I'm going to take this off and I'm going to throw it in the rock tumbler with some triangles, and I'm going to knock some of the sharp points off that. It's just a little bit too sharp. I don't watch. I still my wife and daughter buy me all kinds of Steelers stuff because I'm easy to shop for, because they are my favorite football team. But I don't watch football anymore. I quit watching. I quit watching professional sports for years. Oh, I just got it. Joe commented. My apologies, brother. So Joe, if you're watching, still, I got it. I saw the notification. I do, however, have to turn on do not. I had to turn on the do not disturb so we don't get, because guys, 42 of you here, only 7 likes. Hit the like button so we can. It'll bring more people. I do know that Cold Steel has been super famous for making the great big over-the-top knives. And there are some things that this would be great for. Growing up on a farm, this would have been a great knife to have for certain things on the farm. Snapping open feed bags, chopping some quick limbs, cutting some tubing. Being able to have a larger knife in your pocket might be great. But I have said for a long time, being on a cattle farm, on a cattle ranch, basically, I would have carried something like this, more of your typical cowboy style, frontier style knife, which This is a great, great version of that. But this was also a gift, by the way, that I've had this for a while. This would have been probably looked upon as being a little bit less functional on the farm. I do have to say, Cold Steel's Triad Lock, the Triad Lock, this is basically a fixed blade. Like, you reach a point with I gotta get my reading glasses, sorry. You reach a point with these knives, with the lock that's in these, the Triad Lock that's in these, it is so strong that it is as close to a fixed blade as you're gonna get without it being a fixed blade. It really is. And I've said it for a long time. Most folding knives don't need a lock like that. When you've got a big knife like this, having a really, really strong lock is paramount, because you're gonna do things with a larger knife you wouldn't do with a smaller knife. And like I said, all I did was run it on a ceramic hone, just touched it on a hone, just to take the coarse on the edge, and then stropped it. And this is the edge that it came with. That's still factory edge. I just touched just kissed the edge of it on a ceramic rod, just to take off some of the coarseness of the factory edge, and then stropped it. And that's a factory edge. So what do we got here? I got the Elvia. I've seen them. I've never handled one. I've seen them. They're pretty good. They're a Pikal, folding Pikal. I love the Pikals. This is my folding Pikal. This is what I carry. This is my SNK, my shitty neighborhood knife. So this is what would go in my pocket, because it's a nice self-defense style knife. And a lot of times I'm wearing this on my belt. Like I said, this Night Guard 2, which is a very, very good knife. I like a Pikal for self-defense purposes. But yeah, like I said, the lock on this Triad Lock that they use, hands down the strongest knife lock on the market. It's followed closely by a couple other locks. Like I've said a bunch of times, I think that the compression lock is up there with the level of strength. I don't like, a lot of guys are like, oh, I like the Shark Lock or the Super Lock by Snex. I don't like these, which is why I don't like the 80-20. And what was the other one? Was it 80-20? It gets in my way. It's a good lock, and they're very, very strong. But I find them uncomfortable because they're right where I want to put my thumb. Do I have a brass fist or punch? No. No, this is a knife channel. They're a really functional lock, but for me, I don't find them to be as comfortable, which is why I don't have an 80-20. As fun and fidgety as the Shark Lock is, that's not what I get knives for, and it just gets in my way. I also don't like the Atlas Lock that Cold Steel did, which was kind of similar. Much more inclined to want to get a really good axis lock like this, like the Ram Lock, the crossbar lock. So the Demcos are great. I do have to say I like the Demcos. They are cool. And the 80-10 was, if I remember right, was a liner or a frame lock. I can't remember. But much more inclined to go with something like this. If I want something like that, that's an ambidextrous lock on the back, I'm going to go with compression lock or a crossbar style lock. But if you want to go with just sheer absolute strength, these two right here, I think, are the best on the market. And then followed closely by, in my opinion, a really good axis lock. Compression lock is ridiculously strong. So, guys, please drop a like. That's all I'm asking. Not even asking you to do the super chat, which you can do, by the way, if you want to. Is it? Okay, so it's a Triad Lock. I couldn't remember. I only ever got to handle one for a little bit, and I was like, it was not my favorite of the Demco lines. I just didn't like the knife itself. But yeah, this thing's a winner. Here's the thing. I don't know how I feel about this, the smaller version. I think that the smaller version would be too small. It looks a little stunted. This is big, but then again, I've never seen the smaller version. All I've ever seen is this and the XL, and the XL is too big, and I've never really handled one of these, and I definitely never want to put one on my pocket. I never had put one in my pocket, and I'm like, this is just, it's nuts. And then the other thing is, the deployment on this is finicky right now because it's brand new. It will break in over time. So I wouldn't carry this. One, I wouldn't carry this with, it is legal for me to have this. I can carry this knife legally where I'm at in California. Do you think it should be legal to have the knife? It is legal for me to have this knife. I carried this today to go get my fingerprints done for my background check for the job I'm taking. So it is, do I think it should be illegal? No. Why would I say it? The 6-year-olds have entered the chat. I don't think it should be illegal to have any knife or any firearm for that matter. But like I said, Triad-Lock, absolutely the strongest you're going to find. This Robbie Dobbins, Switchblade Act 1956, 1960, I believe. I can't remember. At any rate, this is, when you have to get a background check, yes, you have to get printed. This is absolutely a great, great knife. I've carried it all over town so far. I'm really digging it. Please drop a like if you're here and you're enjoying it. But this was basically my Christmas present to myself via a buddy of mine that has a ton of points on Blade HQ. And I have a friend, he's not really a friend, we're friends, we're friendly. I have a friend that had bought, back in the day, 100 Bitcoin. Back when they were like, I think when he bought 100 Bitcoin, he spent like $3,200 on that. And then when he saw it go up, then he spent another like 6 or 8 grand on another 100. And he just, when it hit 100 grand per Bitcoin, he just sold off a bunch of it. And he texted me and he was like, hey, I'm in Vegas. I just lost $25,000. I'm like, Jesus Christ. And it was like, he's like, it's fucking lunch money at this point. My TV is not straight. So, but yeah, this thing is great. But it's also not something, as many people as say, this is a great self-defense knife. I really don't have the same opinion. I don't think that this is great. It's a little slow to deploy. It's kind of unwieldy. As big as it is, the way it sits in your pocket, when you reach down and grab it to try to do the wave deployment, you got to like get it out a little bit and then reposition it. It takes a little bit of time, as opposed to this, where it has the same wave deployment where I can just grab the ring and pull it out. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't wave well. Oh, you guys are really high. I'm not saying it doesn't. I mean, you can really literally reach down and it deploys. It's great. However, this one requires a little bit less thought and time. And it's a little bit more controllable and easy to use. And if you're in close, you're gonna have a lot less knife to have to deal with and a lot less chance of hurting yourself. The Raja 2 is about the same size. The only problem is it sits a lot taller in the pocket. It rides comfortably, but when you sit down, it does have a tendency to dig into you a little bit, but it also deploys very, very well. But I don't like the needing to reposition the knife to get into where I want it in hand. So that poses some problems if you're looking at using it for self-defense. So that's my big thing about the really big knife. Hey, Rickert has been a paying member for 15 months. Do you believe that? Do you believe that? So I just personally find, I think that this, if you're in close, you just use my link. You're going to have to use my link to do it. I'm not allowed to have coffee right now. We'll talk about it later, but I was in the hospital last night. I had some atrial fibrillation. I had some heart palpitations. They say it's typically normal. You know, it happens from time to time. It's not like a running thing. I'm not on medication. But I was at the hospital till later in the evening with a heart rate monitor attached to me. So it's not a big deal. It happens. They're like, yeah, it happens from time to time. But I had it 2 days in a row. So I had it on Saturday, and I was like, wow, that's really weird. You can feel it when it happens. And then yesterday, I was like, oh, it's doing it again. I better go. So I think that this knife is going to be a little bit better, especially if you're in close with somebody. And I don't like a picol because you have to push your arm away from yourself. And if you do that, then somebody can like pull you further through. If you're already out and you're dragging back, it's a much stronger action to pull back than it is to push out. And so it puts, you're better on balance with the picol. Bring it back into yourself than you are when you're extending out and then somebody can pull you off balance. So if you're already out, you're pulling back. It just feels more of a intuitive action. So yeah, I don't think that this would be something I would be carrying for self-defense. It's something I carry just because, fuck, it's awesome, right? Why not? So really, really cool. And I like the fact that it is nice and thin. And like I said, the more expensive one is thicker and it's more rounded and contoured. Yeah, I know. Guys, I have a link to Coffee Brand Coffee down below. It saves you, what he's talking about is I have a link down below that saves you 10% at checkout for Coffee Brand Coffee if you want really good coffee, which I typically do drink a lot of coffee. I just can't right now because they're like, yeah, they were like, you can't have any coffee. And I was like, how many cups is that? Because I typically haven't had coffee until I'm on my 3rd cup. And they were like, well, no coffee means 0. And I was like, that's going to be unsafe for everyone. So they did tell me I can have 1 cup a day. And I think I did have a cup this morning. I had a cup of coffee this morning, right? Yeah, I did. I had 1 cup of coffee this morning. They didn't say how big my coffee cup could be. So, that's some crazy cold steel. War Room EDC, who is this? I see you're a paying member, but I don't know who that is. I don't know who that is. When you guys change your handles, please let me know, because that means I need to change it. And you know what? I haven't been doing the members chat thing. I don't even fucking worry. If basically, it's a public Discord at this point. I just haven't been pulling people out. Who is War Room EDC? You guys change your YouTube handles all the time. But yeah, I mean, even for me with big hands, this is, but I do like the fact that if you want a little bit of extra leverage, oh, okay. Hey, Chris, if you want a little bit of extra leverage, you've got some extra handholds where you get further back. If you were using this in a fighting scenario or a self-defense role, you can get yourself a little bit of extension. And the more extension you have, the more distance you have. So if you're pushing or if you're doing a snap cut, you're farther away from the action at the front, which is where the dangerous stuff is. So I do understand that and I do appreciate it. But typically I'm not going to be in a scenario like that. So my shoulder hurts today. Guys, drop a like, please. And I meant to do this. Oh, so you guys are going to hear my daughter running around in the background. She is on winter break from college. She finished all of her finals. So she's home. So you're going to see you're going to hear her in the background a little bit. So, wow, 1,300 views on this already. So yeah, I got this. This was a gift through my buddy, but I also got something else that's really, really cool. Now, this was a gift. My buddy brought this over and dropped it off. So you guys know, we've talked about the Gerber Mark II dagger on the channel a few times. And I gotta lower this. There we go. I'm up under I'm like, I don't have room for my legs up under my workbench when I'm up that high. Sitting on my bar stool at my workbench. So I've talked about the Gerber Mark II dagger and how much I like it over the years. There's a company, now my buddy Tino got this for me, and he brought it, and he's like, early Christmas gift. I was like, bro, you didn't have to do that. This is the military Was it the, hang on a sec, the box is over here. This is the Military Armament Corporation Mark II. So this is their take on the wasp-waisted dagger from the 60s. That was the Bud Holtzman design. The leather is not good. The leather is very, very dry. It's poorly stitched, already popped a stitch. I had to go around the back of it with super glue. I'm gonna get a new sheath for this made. This would be the bad part about this knife. So these are coming out, and there's gonna be a video about this coming soon, but these are a fairly wasp-waisted double-edged dagger, and it's really a piercing tool. It's not very sharp. It's almost zero ground. It does have a small sharpening bevel on it, but this has the exact same handle as the original Mark IIs. It doesn't have the specific handle type where it was the steel material. It was sprayed on the molten steel, the cat's tongue grip, as they used to call it. But it's done in the same steel. It is very, very wasp-waisted. It's more pronounced on this version than the actual Gerber, if you see how narrow the waist is on that. I like it. I think it gives it a really cool look. It looks futuristic. It is really, really cool. And the sheath that's on it is the same sheath, because I'm going to show you, it is basically the same design, because currently I am doing some rust removal. It's over here. Some rust removal on an actual Mark II. And actually this is the Hardman sheath, but it's the same style sheath, you can see. So this is going to get a different sheath. And I was talking with my buddy over at, if you guys are looking for leather sheaths, go to Spirit of the Bear. Look up Michael Spangers, S-P-A-N-G-E-R-S. I think that's how you spell it. I can tell you, hang on a second. I was talking with him. I want to try and get a different sheath for this. Where's my Instagram here? I want to get a different sheath for this, and I would like to have something that's like crossbody with some straps. So Michael, it's okay. So it's Michael, M-I-C-H-A-E-L, S-P-A-N-J-E-R-S. Michael Spangers over at Spirit of the Bear. So it's, at any rate, it's Spirit of the Bear. He does really, really good leather work. I think I want to get something for this that's like crossbody style, where it has a strap that goes and you can put it on, and you don't necessarily have to put it on your belt, but I want to be able to do it. So I do want to put it on a belt, and I'm probably never going to carry this. I just dig the idea of that. Or you could carry a crossbody, and then if you flipped it, it would be like crossbody. You basically detach the strap, and then you could have it crossbody, right or left-handed, depending on which way you wanted to carry it. So, Isabel, they want to know if you're coming to say hi. What are you barking at? There's no one out here. No one's here. The dog is barking and going crazy. She's in the kitchen. Put my toboggan down. Hey, bring me that. Bring it here. The dog's got my hat. Drop it. Drop it. Drop it. That's mine. He gets excited when somebody's here, and then he goes and grabs something to bring it to them. Like usually a shoe. Typically my shoe or my wife's slippers. He'll grab one of them, and then you got a wet shoe. But they did a pretty good job with this. They're not that expensive. They are, I guess they're harder to find, and people are selling them like on the secondary market. But they're not that expensive. And I was surprised at how cheap they actually are. They're like $100 compared to what you're going to pay for an actual like Mark II. And they're not like something that's really slicey. They're very, very heavily, you can see very, very thick blade stock brought down from that central ridge. So you're not going to have a lot of slicing. I mean, it will cut, but this isn't something that you're going to do. This isn't like an outdoors knife that you use for a lot of cutting. And that's a lot of people. Yeah, Rickert with the big bucks. Thank you very much, Rickert. I appreciate it. I need to find my cowbell. for when we do this. You know what? I know where it's at. Hang on a second. Let me get the cowbell. Let me get the cowbell. So that when you guys, if you guys do drop a super chat, I just can't find the stick. I can't find the little, I don't see the little stick. I found the bell. So if you guys do drop a super chat, so this is for Rickert. Let me find something to. That's for Rickert. Wish I knew what a stick was. So that's the cowbell. So if you guys if you drop a super chat, I'll ring the cowbell. Oh, War Room EDC. So you guys got so Bubbles just got, he gifted a membership. So Bubbles got a free membership. Bubbles, you're back in the memberships. So at any rate, yeah, this came to me from my buddy. I'm pretty impressed with it. The leather for $100 knife, it's done really, really well. And they stayed fairly true to a lot of the things that Gerber did with the Mark II. If I didn't have it soaking in some rust remover, we would look at a side-by-side comparison to an actual Mark II. I think they wasped it a good bit more than the originals. And so, I'm not, it's, hang on, Rickert. Dang it, Rickert. But yeah, they did a really good job staying fairly faithful to the, it's here somewhere. I saw it not too long ago. I just don't know where. Rickert, I don't know where it's at. It's behind the green screen. So anything that's behind the green screen officially doesn't exist. There it is. Anything that's behind the green screen really doesn't exist. I found the stick. I found the stick. Yeah, guys, hit the like button. So yeah, if you guys drop a super chat, I'll ring the bell. That's for Rickert. The dog does not like that. This came with the cowbell. So I used to joke that it was my buddy's. It was his wife's dinner bell, or it was a charm on his wife's necklace. Because the joke was that his ex-wife was. It wasn't that it was a joke. She was a large woman. She didn't used to be. At any rate, yeah, I got, like I said, got it for Christmas. I think I'm going to get another sheath made for it. It's pretty true to the original. It's pretty true to the original sheaths that were on these. The problem is that's just regular thread. That's not like, so when you look at a sheath that's purpose built, the stitching is done with some pretty heavy cordage style, like the guts out of like 550 cord, something really strong. This is just, it's basically sewing thread. And it popped. You can see where it popped. And then I just basically pulled it tight and glued it, clipped it down and glued it. And then I just ran super glue along this. Now that's not going to prevent it from popping again. The other thing is, if you get one of these, the leather has not been treated. So it's really, really dry. And it's just soaking up, it's soaking up everything I throw at it. So I am going to probably get some linseed oil, or not some linseed oil, some neat's foot oil, and just oil the shit out of this. Because it's really stiff, it's really dry. And no matter how much, I prefer a combination. Let me show you what Michael Spangers made for me. So Michael made this for me. This is probably one of the best sheaths I've ever had. But you can see the stitching, but it's also riveted at the corner points, but they're not really rivets. They are like screwed in. And so this is a really, really good sheath. If you want a sheath from him, like top-notch leather work, but he made this for me for my OSS, because the sheath for it was one of the Securex sheaths from Cold Steel, and every time you would put your knife in the sheath, it would just get dull. And so there's a nice, I mean, you can see it's neck down, it's nice. You're not going to get too far over. It's nice thick leather. It's got a spot for a Norton stone on it. It's got double retention, so you've got a snap here, and then you can also double snap it if you want. It's like paratrooper style, but if you don't want that second one, it just kind of swings free from your belt. This is an amazing sheath for this. This is the knife that I take when I go up, because where I go up on the mountain to go for hikes and stuff every once in a while with the dog. Can't carry firearms. And so since there are mountain lions and stuff up there, this is what I carry. Todd's here. Hey, Todd. Because this is something you could absolutely use to defend yourself from a larger predator. As a matter of fact, there's a video on Cold Steel's website of a guy killing a Cape buffalo with this that was attacking his father with this exact knife. Well, not this exact knife, but with this exact model, Cold Steel OSS. It is a double-edged clip point style dagger blade. So it is razor sharp on both sides. And that is this. I had never owned a knife with this clip point style hey, I want to stay, but it's late there, Chris. Okay. So it is, oops, flipped it. It is razor sharp on the back. Oh, this paper got a little damp. So that's the front. And that's the back. So, oh, it doesn't say Chris. Crypti, I don't have my reading glasses on, sorry. If I mispronounce your name, it's probably because I'm stubborn and won't wear my reading glasses even though I know I need them. So, yeah, that's some of the best leather work I've gotten. What do you guys want? What are you guys getting for Christmas? What do you guys think you want for Christmas? I'm going to tell you right now, if you're looking for a gift, I think you should probably look over at TCal Knives. I don't think you'd be able to get it in time for Christmas, but I have not been as pleased with a knife in a long time as I was when I got this one as a gift. And apparently I have another one coming from the same gentleman, but it's still in the works because I guess Tim is doing something special with it. So, you know, it's, he's doing something special with it for me because he wanted to, but I do know I have another TCal coming as a gift, like late birthday, early Christmas kind of a thing. So, sorry, I'm doing two things at once. So, guys, drop a like. There's 52 of you here, but only 26 likes. If you didn't see it, here's another thing. When am I live again? Probably tomorrow around the same time-ish. I have a bunch of stuff I'm trying to do. I've got to do my guard card application. I just did my fingerprints. I got to put in my application for my guard card so I can get that, so I can take that job. So this, I just did a video that went up on Sunday. Jorge retracted a message. I just did a video about this that went up. As a matter of fact, to tell you the truth, I have to tell you, the video that you guys saw on Sunday, yesterday, that went up about this knife, the Mini Labrador, has been in the members only queue for about 2 or 3 months, if not longer. But every time I tried to release it, there was an issue. So what I had to do was I had to take it down, re-upload the video, which luckily I keep all of my videos recorded on a hard drive. So I re-uploaded the video and then just released it to the public as a premiere. But this thing, if you can still find these, like exact opposite of the Spectrum, not the Spectrum, how the fuck do I lose a knife that big? Exact opposite of the Spectrum. This is a great, great knife that, like, this is one of those knives that is, you're not giving up anything. The Vosteed Mini Labrador, and there's a link to Vosteed Knives down below, an affiliate link to Vosteed Knives. down below. I have an affiliate with them. It says KATSU Knives. But there's some of their mini knives. You don't give up anything. And to be honest, there's a couple of their knives that are really, there's a couple that are really better than the full-size versions. I have the Corgi pup, but they've done a couple of mini knives that I really do like better than the full-sized. Most notably, because I've had a couple of them on the channel, is the Nightshade. So the Nightshade is a great, great knife. Now, I don't have a full-size Nightshade, but I have the mini. We'll just get this one out too. We'll just grab a couple of them here, since I'm right here. Let's put this, just toss this back in here. So there's a couple of their mini knives that I think are better than the full size. Now, I have gotten to, in the interim since I filmed the video about the, since I filmed the video about this, I've gotten to handle the full size Corgi. And I like the Corgi pup better, and it's got a central. Yes, I will make a video about it. I don't remember what one I'm getting. I can't remember what one, because I didn't order it. It was a gift, and I would have to look back the text. The guy told me that it was coming. But this Corgi pup it's great, and I don't like the full size Corgi as much. This is a great, great little knife. It's ambidextrous. It's got a central, they call it their Trek lock, the little button lock. And in hand, it is very, very nice. And I'm typically not a fan of orange knives, but this one's really good. But the one that really stands out in their line, that the mini is better. The one that absolutely stands out, as good as the Nightshade. I forgot the name for a second. As good as the Nightshade is, which it's an incredible knife, this is better. This is the mini Nightshade. If you can get into my affiliate links down below in the description of the video, if you're looking for knives, go to KATSU. They are making some great, great budget-friendly knives, and this one is just amazing. It's amazing how good this is, and how I find this easier to use and cut with than the full-size version. And you don't, I don't feel like you're giving up anything with this. You may have a scenario where you want the larger blade on the full-size Nightshade, but on this one, you really don't give up that much. And it's not something that you're carrying that's like out of the norm of what people would be used to seeing. It sits nice and deep. It's nice and contoured. The action on this one is amazing. It's in 14C28N. And even as small as this is, it addresses the cut really, really well. It drops down into the cut really well. And it's lightly radiused. I just really, really love this knife a lot. And as far as like a powerhouse cutter, if you're cutting cardboard and stuff, it's just super good because it's nice and thin. I didn't think I was going to like this. I didn't think I was going to like the original Nightshade. I saw it, and I was like, that looks so weird with that leaf-style blade and that really heavy radius, that the second I got it in, I got one in from Jared over at Knives, I was like, oh yeah, I'm in love with this. And now that I've got the mini, KATSU sent this to me. So, not saying it because they sent me the knife. I absolutely love this. I would, like I said, I've said it much as I would, this, if they had not given me this and I came in for review, I would have bought this, which is why I own one of these. I had one of these come in for review and I liked it so much I wound up buying one. This is the Amphibian by Microtech. Just an amazing knife. This is my favorite knife of all time. Like, this came out of my pocket when I sat down because I wanted to put it up here, because I knew I wanted to use this because this is a known reference point. This is a 9 1/4 inch knife, and I knew I was going to talk about this, so I could specifically tell you 9¼ like to put into perspective how large the largest bota is. I do really like that. It's going back in my pocket. It's going to go back in my pocket. So only 28 likes on this, guys. There's 40 of you here. Another company, if you're looking for Christmas gift knives, would be KATSU, KATSU. You can use my coupon code crazysharp with them to save 10%. These are the guys that are doing my prototypes, that are doing my knife design. I don't have any word on when it's going to release or anything yet, but I can save you 10% if you go over to their website. They've got knives ranging in price, a bunch of different price points. This is one of their like more expensive ZDP 189, but it's still only like comparatively to other knives that are similar to this coming out of Rockstead, this is a quarter of the price. This is about 300, it's less than a quarter of the price. I think these are 310 or 340 with the fat carbon fiber and the ZDP 189 at 67 Rockwell. But this was the ladder style Damascus, like the pattern welded, but it's ZDP 189 core Damascus, and it's great. It's a 67 Rockwell. Their knives are amazing, and comparatively to no, it's not. So KATSU is a Hong Kong-based company, but they make most of their stuff with Japanese designers, and their stuff is split between production in a couple of different companies or countries to cost save. So some of their stuff is made in China, and then I think some of the final assembly, the heat treat, the polishing, that gets done in Japan. So it's a cost savings thing. It's like doing mid-techs where you have like outsourced stuff. But their level of quality is nuts. And my prototypes when they came were spot on. So I would put this up against a Higo 2. It's a little bit different. It's very, very similar to the Rockstead Higo 2. But a Higo 2 is going to run you $1,600, $1,200, $1,600 sometimes. And well, go Steelers, huh? So this is way under a quarter of the price of what you can pay. And having had a Higo that I was told I could use, I don't see a marked difference between this and the Higo. So it's, you can, like, this is hard enough you can score glass with that. I think they do. I think they do as well. I mean, I'm not really on. I do know that they're using materials from Japan, but they also are, like, I'm the first non-Japanese designer that they've worked with. So I know that one of the guys at the company is in Hong Kong, but he used to be in the Japanese military. So, and some of their designers were in the Japanese self-defense force. It's not really military. It's called the JMSDF. Or the JGSDF, which is the Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force, or the Japanese Ground Self-Defense Force. That's their Army and Navy, because they're not technically allowed to have an Army or a Navy. They have a self-defense force. But yeah, so some of their designers have been guys that were in the Japanese self-defense force, like paratroopers and stuff like that. So they're a really, really interesting company to work with. They have been incredibly easy to work with. And like I said, just the level of quality on these is, like I said, I would put most of their knives up against much more expensive counterparts. And like their heat treat on their ZDP 189 is just, it's stellar. My knives are coming in S90V. And I did a good bit of testing on mine. I'm just dropping this because I have used it a good bit lately. The S90V that I got on theirs are insane. The S90V was insanely good. It was way up there. But like I said, they're doing their heat treat. Basically, with the heat treat on their ZDP 189 and some of their other stuff is basically being done by the same folks that are doing heat treat for Rockstead. Like it's, what you're not getting is that hand polished, like that super mirror polished edge. And they do have a sharpening bevel. I don't know. I don't have any. Well, I do have Benchmade S90V, and Benchmade's S90V that I have on that. On this S90V blade, it's not bad. The heat treat's pretty good on this, to be honest. I've gotten to the point where as much as I wanted one of these, I hate this knife. There's just so many things wrong with this. Don't buy anyone a Benchmade 940 unless you don't like them. Like, there's blade play, and if you tighten it down to get rid of the blade play, then it's a two-hand opener, and the blade's too thick, and it's uncomfortable to cut with because of the way they did it, and then it's so I just I wanted one of these so long. Somebody gave me one as a gift, and I still appreciate it. That's why it's here. This is a garbage knife, and especially considering how expensive it is. That knife was more expensive than this knife. This knife's definitely better. Low Country Hillbilly is here, huh? Low Country Hillbilly. KATSU makes an amazing knife for money. Really unbelievable what they do with ZDP 189. Yeah, I have 4 of their knives, and I gave that big fixed blade to Scab over at Choir Boys Cutlery. That's his. I told him he can keep it. They sent it to me, and so I'm like, yeah. You keep it because I'm not going to be able to use it with my shoulder. And I've got so many other fixed blades. And Chuck, get in here. Don't go out there. Don't go out in the yard. You stay in here. Considering he sent me that Grizzly and gave it to me as a gift, I'm like, yeah, you know what? You keep that. He loves that thing. Bike Life, what's up? He loves it. It is the FB03. He seems to love it. And I was like, good. You're keeping it because it's yours. Hopefully you enjoy it. Get out of my stuff, bud. Why are you? The dog is pushing me in circles. He can hear my daughter getting ready to go. Just got a PM2 in Crew Carta. I have said it a few times. This is the best crewwear knife, production knife on the market right now. And to put it in perspective, mine still has the factory edge. Can you see how many wear lines are on this knife? Like those lines that are on that, those are wear lines from cutting cardboard and stuff. There's some right there. This is still got the factory edge. A little proper grammar, Mike. This still has the factory edge. And guys, if you're here, there's 43 of you. There's only 29 likes. I guarantee it's more than, because we're doing it on the vertical. Please drop a like. It's free. I'm not even asking you to drop a super chat like Rickert did. Chunk, get in here. He sees the neighbor. He lives in the neighbor. The neighbor is our landscaper. This is still the factory edge. After cutting enough cardboard that I have scuffed the finish on this. And it is, you see those lines? That line going that way? This is still the factory edge. All I've done is strop this. This is the best heat treat I've ever had on crewwear. And to be honest, I've only had a few, but when you're cutting enough cardboard that you have changed the surface finish of the blade and the edge is still holding, that's some pretty good steel. The only knife in crewwear that I have that I think is better is this one, and it's because this was a custom heat treat. This is the Lamia by Alex Steingraber, and it's an insanely good, but this is a custom heat treat because for all intents and purposes, this is a custom knife. So my crewwear and Della is one of the best. Yeah, Spyderco has really gotten to where they're nailing their heat treat. My PM2 in S90V, this is, I think this and what they sent me for my prototypes from KATSU, I think those two are like the best S90V I've ever had. And this holds an edge incredibly well. This just recently got sharpened, and it is nightmare-inducing levels of sharp. I thinned the edge back. I gave it a little bit, because it's kind of thicker material. I gave it a specific edge that I wanted. It's at about 800 grit-ish. And it is just, it's a night, it's just, it is a laser. Because my dog just farted. It's a laser, and I still say that this is probably the best all-around EDC you will ever find anywhere on the market, is the Spyderco PM2. For 8 knives, I'm going to buy the Canary Japanese box cutting knife just to save some sharpening compound. I cut cardboard specifically to test. This just keeps cutting cardboard because I'm trying to figure out what the fuck's going to make it dull. But this spends a lot of time in my pocket. As a matter of fact, I just cleaned the scales on it and re-waxed it because I had been carrying it a lot. And I've got a little bit of rust on it. I need to take this apart and I need to soak it in some Evapo rust just to get whatever little bit of rust is on it, because I noticed some rust around the pivot. But you got to wax. Crewware will rust. I did see that, who was it, Edged Mindset or somebody that put that Canary cardboard cutting knife up? I have a knife specifically for cardboard. If I'm not testing knives, I have a Boker ceramic that, it's a horrible knife. Absolutely do not recommend it for anyone. The pocket clip fell off. The thumb stud fell off. I broke the tip off because they break like glass. But if it's, I think it's right around here. But I keep it because if I'm just cutting up cardboard and I'm not testing knives, it is absolutely a cardboard destroying beast. It really, really is. Hey, that's where that went. But I don't know where I put it. It's here somewhere, but it's not a great knife at all. They're really finicky, but it's a ceramic folding knife. And if you're only using it for something like cutting cardboard, it's going to work really, really well. What do I mean wax the knife blade? Usually I will use, so this is boat zipper and snap wax. I'll use this for snaps and things like that, but you can also just rub it on the blade. It's just beeswax. You can also find some things like this. I don't recommend this because this company's a bullshit company that's going to rip you off. But there are blade waxes that you can get. So this one is just simply beeswax in a chapstick. You just get some of this and you rub it on a blade, and then you can just, it kind of warms up with the heat of your fingers and you put it on it. That's what's on here, is just some beeswax. I keep beeswax on this because 80 CRV2 rusts. I took the scales off and I put beeswax underneath and put them back on. So it provides a barrier. You can also get, there's some sprays like EDCI and Blade Shield from KPL, from KPL. This I like because the beeswax seems to stand up a little bit better. It stays on a little bit better because it doesn't, this is really soft. And if it's warm out, like you can see, this is a really soft wax you just apply with your fingers. The beeswax, you got to rub it on the blade a little bit, and then you got to move it around with your fingers, and the warmth of your fingers will soften it enough that you can spread it around. So these are like $5 for 3 tubes on Amazon. And I mean, in a pinch, got chapped lips. It smells like it might even have a little bit, it might just be menthol beeswax. But this is beeswax because there's a definite difference between the consistency of this and this actual tube of chapstick. Yeah, you can get this same shit for way less than $15 fucking. Stay away from Carnivora. There's a video coming. Don is just ripping people off and scamming people. It's a bullshit company. And so I wouldn't ever purchase any. The only reason I have this, they sent it to me for free. Is it glitchy and jittery? Are you guys having connection issues? Out of curiosity? Do I look pixelated? I will never, Okay, cool. Just checking because it looks jittery to me on my side. And it doesn't look like my phone is charging. So, yeah, I don't recommend anything from them. There's going to be a video about this coming soon. They really, really screwed over a bunch of people, screwed over designers, investors, customers. Don't buy anything from Carnivora. You can find the same thing. This is a so this is a mix of beeswax, almond oil, and coconut oil. You could probably make it yourself. Beeswax works just fine. Plus, you can use beeswax on leather to waterproof it. You can also put it on. You can also use beeswax on like oilcloth and stuff like that. If you've got a rainproof jacket, all of your seams, you can waterproof it that way on like all the stitching seams on a waterproof jacket. Just it's really easy to use this. It's just like using chapstick. If you're gonna do sewing leather, you could just like have one of these. You could run the thread through it, so you can wax your thread for sewing, stitching leather, and things like that. Yeah, I came across this. I'm probably gonna buy a couple more before you can't find them anywhere. Okay, cool. Thanks guys for letting me know. I just was curious because it looked glitchy on my end. But yeah, there's plenty of ways that you can wax and oil your blades. There are steels that are very prone. I've never owned a sander knife. I will never own a sander knife because I one time sharpened a sander knife. They're very, very chippy. They're very, very chippy. I sharpened it for the guy. He had sent it off to the company. It came back and they didn't, like, he didn't like the way it was sharpened. He was like, it's all screwed up. He's like, can I send it to you? Can you hand sharpen it? I was like, yeah, I've got the diamond stuff to do it. So if you guys don't know, sander knives are made out of tungsten carbide. And so I have the diamond stones and stuff to do it. I sharpened that knife for him. It was a mess. It was really difficult. I sent it to him. Within a matter of days, he was like, it's not anything you did, but he's like, that fucking thing chipped again. So just like ceramic and things like that, there are some things that shouldn't be knives. And it's just really, the people, ceramic shouldn't be a knife. In my opinion, Maximet and Rex 121 should not be used to make knives. They're too brittle. Yes, they will hold an edge forever, but so will flint and so will glass. Until the first time you twist it, I've seen so many of those Spyderco PM2s. I think it was I'm pretty sure it was only the PM2s. They did a run in Maximet. And I have seen so many posts and pictures. I'm gonna tip you guys down a little bit because I'm gonna drop myself down a little bit. There we go. Now I'm comfortable. I can put my feet up on this. I've seen so many pictures of this knife done in Maximet where there is a chunk the size of the pad of my finger missing from that knife because they put it in a zip tie, and when they went to cut it, they twisted and it just breaks like glass. There are some people that do heat treats on Maximet that are amazing. Big Brown Bear does a couple knives that he's done in Maximet and Rex 2021, but he uses a specific heat treat on that knife that makes it much more resilient. You might get lucky and never have it happen, but I've seen pictures. As a matter of fact, I used it in a thumbnail when I was talking about why I'm not a fan of some of the new super steels. Some of the other things that I get upset with steels are, I have reverted back to going with steels I know have been great in my opinion. Now, I've seen a ton of pictures of people with Maximet Spydercos with big chunks, like not chips, chunks. Like I said, the size of a nickel just broke off from their knife. And as long as you're careful and you're using it for specific things, it should be fine. Like I said, it's one of those super steels, but the problem I have is a lot of times people are coming, all right, guys, I have to do something real quick because my phone is not charging. You're gonna lose audio. Hopefully that fixes it. My phone is charging. It's connected to power, but it's dying, and it should not be. Did we get the audio back? Hang on a second. I'm going to go get something out of the K390. I've had a couple knives in K390, and they seem to be awesome. I've had them come in. I like the new M390K. MK. The M390 MK. I'm a fan of this, and people are saying that it's not great. 20 CV, it depends on the heat treat. I have not found it to be chippy. I made all of my custom knives in 20 CV, Sean, and I did not ever have a problem. But I also did a specific heat treat where we were doing a really, really good heat treat on it, but it was an all-day thing because it wasn't just a regular heat treat. We do the heat treat, and then the temper, so we would take it to 2200 degrees and then quench it like that between aluminum plates, then peel it out of its steel wrapper, and then it went into another oven for two 2-hour cycles at 1000 degrees. So you wound up doing 3 separate stages. So you would do it for 2 hours at 1000, pull it out, let it cool off, put it back in the oven at 1000 degrees for 2 hours. So you're looking at just in the temper 4 hours. And getting it to 2200 degrees took all day. So you're looking at like a 10-hour day to heat treat 5 blades when you're doing custom knives. But I never had a problem with that steel. I've seen people test the 20 CV that I did, or that We Knife Company did in my design, and they were like, it's super resilient. So people like to say things about steels that it's not really true. I've never had 20 CV chip. S30V, yes. S90V, occasionally, but with some really hard use, you get some chipping. S30V, every knife I've ever had in S30V will get micro chipping at the very edge, just doing simple things like opening your mail. That's why there's not an S30V blade in that 940. TRM, theirs is really good. There are a couple of companies that do 20 CV a little bit better, and they do it at a little bit higher. And you get some extra benefits, but it makes them much more expensive. And I can't think of the name of the company off the top of my head, but it's almost like a custom heat treat. S110V is good. S90V. S125V is a monster. S125V comes annealed at 55. It comes annealed before you even heat treat it, before you even harden it. It comes annealed at 55. When you do the heat treat on it, I've done it at 60, above 67. And I did 2 knives for my buddy in S125V, and they're both well above 67 because you can score glass with them. And they refuse to get dull. They refuse to get dull, and they don't chip. It's some of the best stuff, but S125V is hard to get, and it's hard to work with. Like I said, if you're dealing with a steel that's coming in at 55 before you even heat treat it, like just the grinding on it is just gonna be a nightmare. And I always did grinding. I did all of my grinding. I didn't do any preheat treat grinds except just the shaping of the blade and finish as much surface finish as I could. And then you do the post heat treat, and like you just eat through belts. It's expensive. I do have something really cool here that I wanted to show you guys. My buddy got this. Now I like carbon steel on certain things. Just the problem is, like when I carry carbon steel, I have a problem with it rusting a lot. I rust some stainless steels. I gotta show you guys, but it depends on what the purpose for the knife is, Daniel. This is a very rare knife. This is a Gerber. Now, we're pretty sure it's the Guardian, the original Guardian, but it's been done with Westinghouse micarta scales, and then they did a scrimshaw style, let me turn you guys around and get you a better view of this. There's a tiger scrimshawed on this. So what this was when when Gerber first started making things overseas. They were trying to make a knife that was a little bit cheaper. There's only 1,000 of these, and this one is number 357, which is kind of cool. But this is here for review, and it's just a great, great little knife. It's got a nice little sheath. It's got a nylon covering, but it's got a molded plastic interior. Now, I wouldn't trust the retention on this. It's not great. My buddy's going to get a sheath made for this. But this was something that I saw and I was like, I love the way this looks. I wish it was a little bit bigger. In my hand, it's uncomfortable where the coffin style handle comes down, where this area here at the heel, it's just a little too short for me and it digs into my hand. But we're pretty sure that this is just basically the original Gerber Guardian. Now, there's a Guardian 1, which was a little bit bigger, and a Guardian 2, which was full size. I've handled one of those two. I don't know. But just a really nice little boot knife. So we're not going to do any like testing or sharpening or anything on this. But yeah, this was back in the day when Gerber was still making really high quality stuff, and they shipped some stuff off to Taiwan, and that was kind of their first outing into it. Now, Gerber knives are trash now. But I had some Gerber knives that were great. It's like Benchmade. I had some Benchmade knives back in the day that were amazing, and I used to love Benchmade. And then they just kind of went to shit. And I mean, there's just no other way of saying it. They just pretty much fell off, and they're still charging a premium for knives that just aren't that good. They really aren't. But anybody get any early Christmas gifts like I did? Like I said, this makes me want to go outside and chop things up, and my shoulder isn't going to let me. But there is going to be a video about this coming soon. Like I said, I just cannot believe how good this is. And I wanted to show you, oh, that's right, I was going to show you guys. The stone wash on this was one of the reasons that I decided to go with the more affordable version. I don't like their satins. And this stone wash is just so good on this. And then, like I said, I'm not a fan of S35 VN. It's not a bad steel. A lot of people like it. It's one of those steels that is like MagnaCut and some other steels. The grain structure is so super fine that I don't get the kind of edge I want. It just doesn't cut the way I want. It just doesn't have the toothiness that I want. I want something with big, irregular carbides in it that are really going to allow me to utilize that edge the way I want, regardless of what the edge finish is. And people are like, well, why does that even matter? And I've explained this a bunch of times, and maybe I'll do another sharpening video where I talk about it. If you put a toothy edge on something, it's going to cut really well, but then the entire edge, your carbides at their front, if they're more irregular and they're larger, even if you've got like a 5,000 grit edge, it's still going to have a good bit of tooth to it. And that's because the way the carbides are at the edge, they're still so small you can't see them, but they're irregular enough that they still have that cutting power. When you have, oh, Low Country Country Boy gets the bell ring. It's right next to my ear. Very loud. The nice thing about being able to take that edge further up into grit is, well, I mean, I can show you right here on this factory edge. Can you see how coarse that edge is? You can see that scratch pattern, right? You can see it. It's clear that scratch pattern is like that. Now, on this knife that is in crew wear, I have a much more refined, polished edge. But this edge is every bit as aggressive as that much coarser edge. But this is going to glide through material a little bit better. There's going to be a little bit less friction up there at that edge, and there's less for the material to grab onto and then damage the edge. So if you can get the same coarse cutting edge at the front, hey, Kyle, Eli, thank you very much. If you can get that same aggressive edge at the front with a finer scratch pattern, what you wind up with is something that slices really well, is still aggressive, and you're not going to have to sharpen as much. The other thing too, it's the coarser the edge. If you got a really, really fine edge where it's like this, like like there's just almost no scratch pattern, right? There's not the peaks and valleys in that, because at the microscopic level, the peaks and valleys at the apex are going to be smaller. So there's more material holding them together. So they're like this, right? They're really, really tight. You see how my fingers are? They're really, really tight. There's almost no gap. When you start doing a coarse edge like this, what happens is you wind up with gaps in between. So yeah, it's really aggressive like a sawtooth, but these bend and break off easily because there's not as much material. The peaks and valleys are more pronounced. There's less material supporting the very points at the apex, which is why factory edges typically don't last as long as a finer edge that you put on it later. But then you run into the problem that some steels won't allow you to do that because then they get really, really slick. Yeah, they'll cut paper, and yeah, they feel sharp, and yeah, they'll cut hair, but they won't cut things like line. So if you're trying to cut like a piece of natural line, it doesn't bite, it just kind of slips off. So now you got this super sharp knife that you're trying to use and it just won't cut. So what a lot of people do is they take those super steels and they just don't take them as high up in the grit. Well, then you run into the same problem. Like I was saying, you get back down to this and I'm like, 14C28N, it doesn't matter whether you do it at 1,000 grit or if you do it at 8,000 grit. It's aggressive. S90V, not quite as much. Crew wear, that's an 8,000 grit edge. It is stupid aggressive because of the carbide structure. So when you start getting into these, like I do agree that, not crew wear, what's the one I'm thinking of? Not Maximat, fuck. MagnaCut. MagnaCut, I would love that in a tool that I was using for woodworking because I'm going to be able to take that way up into grade, super fine grain structure. It's not going to leave those little trailing lines on it where you've got like a coarser edge. It's going to leave you less work to do on chisel. My father-in-law loved super fine grain structures for his woodworking tools because he was a master carpenter. He would get tools made. His chisel were made out of specific steels. There were super fine grain structures so he could take those up to like 12,000 grit and then strop them on something and just bring that mirror polish. That's because then when he uses that chisel, he gets a really fine finish. He doesn't have to sand as much. So it's just, it depends on what you want. I like D2. D2 is a great, great steel. Problem I have with D2 is I rust the shit out of it. That's why I always, like every day that I carry this, I come home, the first thing I do if I've been carrying this in my pocket for the day, I clean it up real good because I love this knife and I don't want to get it all nasty and rusty and get it pitted and things like that. So, and some companies' formulation of D2 is more prone to rust. This one's not anywhere near as prone to rust as the steel that was in my Rat 1, the D2 that was in my Rat 1. That rusted to the point where I was like, it's got pits in it. I'm like, what the fuck is up with, I hate the Rat 1. I hate the Rat 1. Everybody's like, oh, Ontario Knife and Tools back. I was like, are they going to make garbage fucking bullshit Rat 1s? Of course they are. This is all they make. That design needs to be revamped. It's just, it's a dated design. It no longer is the design that I want. It no longer is as comfortable or as good as some of the other knives. It is really just a very old school dated design. This is a much better, right? People are like, oh, it's the best, it's the best, it's the best EDC knife out there. I'm like, it's not. This is a much more functional blade for almost everything you're ever going to do, including self-defense. Just in that grip, you can see how aggressive that is. It's insane how good this knife is. To the point that I think it's better for most people than the one I like more, which is the military. So that's been my problem with a lot of the super steels. There are some out there that are just amazing. ZDP 189 is great. 14, everybody shits on 14C28N, and I'm like, 14C28N is the original purpose-built knife steel. And like, no, it's not. It was made for us. I was like, no, it's not. Go look on Sandvik's site. Sandvik formulated that to be used in cutting tools and cutlery. It is one of the first purpose-built knife steels. It's one of the first ones out there. Also, RWL34, purpose designed for knives. The reason it's called RWL34 is because Robert Lovelace was involved in the formulation of that. Robert Lovelace, world famous knife maker. It's named after him. There's a few. MagnaCut is a purpose-built knife steel. That's what it was designed for. There's a few of them out there, and they're great. I don't like the Shaman. I don't like a lot of this. I will tell you guys right now, I love Spyderco knives. But I love certain Spyderco knives. There are a lot of the Spyderco knives I just don't like. I didn't like the Native. I didn't like the Shaman. I had a Native 4 or 5 or whatever the fuck it was. I didn't like it. I gave it to my brother-in-law. And it wasn't that it wasn't a good knife. It just was not the knife I wanted. And a lot of it had to do with blade shape and the way it carried, the way it felt in hand. And I didn't like the pocket clip assembly on it. This is the best Spyderco they make. Well, no, it's not. This is the best EDC. This is the best Spyderco they make, but it's still not my favorite. And we've talked about it a bunch of times. This is my favorite Spyderco. This is my favorite Spyderco ever. And this was a gift from one of the paying members. I'd wanted one of these for years. I never pulled the trigger on one. And then I thought about pulling the trigger on one, but I had already been given a Benchmade 940, which is a knife that was kind of like a grail knife for me, but I couldn't justify the price because I know how what Benchmade's quality was. And I was woefully disappointed with the Benchmade 940. And so I was very hesitant, even when these were on sale, to purchase one. Well, lo and behold, Winston Cobretti, one of the paying members, sent one of these as, I think it was Christmas last year. This was a Christmas present from him last year. And I was like, all right, this is amazing. I was like, this is amazing. And it is still an amazing knife. And this is my favorite Spyderco of all time. Just the iconic lines of this knife and seeing it in the catalogs or in the magazines with this very pronounced swedge, the tiny little bit of belly that starts like right there up at the very front just gives it an iconic look. There is no PM3, Sean. There is military 2, the paramilitary 2, and the para 3. And I have been guilty of calling it a PM3 as well. Darth BMX used to be a paying member, by the way. Met him at several knife shows. I hate the smock, and you know I hate the smock, and you're trying to derail this and get me to just go on a tirade about the dumbest knife that Spyderco ever made. It's ridiculous. It is if that knife was a person, it would have Down syndrome. How's your kid, Darth, by the way? I haven't seen you guys at a knife show. I'm probably not going to go any knife shows for a while. It's frustrating going to knife shows. It's frustrating trying to film at knife shows. It's frustrating how poorly the videos do. And I just can't justify driving to a knife show. Yeah, but this thing is amazing. I love, and the reason this is so special to me is I remember, this is another one of those knives, like the Spyderco Clip It that came in, that I did the video you guys saw not too long ago. I remember laying on the floor in our living room when I was a kid. We only had 3 channels, and like most of the time it was all garbage that I didn't want to watch anyway. And if it was raining and stuff, I would get my dad's outdoor magazines out from under the end table that was between the recliner and the love seat, where my dad sat. And I would pull those out and I would just go through them and I'd look at stuff, and you'd see the ads for Spyderco knives and you saw the police, and it was, I remember the ad, it was this knife and it was open and it was in the background and it was the cop car on a rainy street, and it was like built, was it built to serve those that serve us, I think was on the thing. And it was like this knife up in the top, and you had the Spyderco, it showed the Spyderco police. But like I remember it was a cop car, and there was a cop on a rainy street. He was walking up and you could see the lights reflecting, and he was walking up towards the car like with his hand, and I was like, ah, it's an awesome. It was an awesome ad. What was this? I upgraded my Manix to the point that I don't carry it outside the house. I don't, like I said, I don't like a lot of the Spyderco designs. So 209, this 209, I think these, when Winston got this one for me and he got one for himself, these I think were under 200 at the time, if I remember correctly. And guys, those of you that donated super chats, thank you very, very much. Appreciate it. It's not so much the financial part of it. Dropping likes and dropping super chats, let us know that you guys appreciate what we do on these channels. But if you do follow a channel and you do like a channel, do them a favor and drop them a super chat. Not saying me. I'm saying, like, if you're following like Scab or some of the other channels, you can drop a super chat. It just lets them know, like a couple bucks. Yeah, absolutely love this. It's not the most comfortable of the Spydercos, and the way it carries isn't the best, but it's just the one, like the iconic one that I think of. And if you guys don't know what I'm talking about a Spyderco Clip It, this one took me back to my childhood as well. Not the knife itself, just the design overall thing about it. Because when Spyderco first came out, they had these knives that they called Clip-Its, and they had an integral clip built into them, and it was just part of the handle. This is an original. It's a re-release of an original design. This was the Spyderco Clip-It, the Ketchman Clip-It. Now, I do remember back in the day, people complained about this pocket clip breaking off. Now, this, I guarantee that this is now in the FRN, the fiberglass reinforced nylon. But this was, and I remember seeing these. This is a Ketchman, which was a purpose-built folding fillet knife. And it is really nice and light, and it is nice and thin, and it has the flex you want in a fillet knife, and it is really, really sharp. But the thing that brought me back was seeing the original, not just pocket clip, but the original Clip It logo. And I was like, oh man, that reminds me of when I was a kid. And like I said, laying on a floor on a rainy day in Southeast Ohio, can't go outside and play, can't do anything. It's a Saturday, Dad's watching sports. We have one TV in the house. Dad's watching something. You're not going to be able to play Nintendo or anything. So it just was, it was a lot of fun, and it just took me back to my childhood. And it makes me smile just thinking about it. And so does every time I put my Spyderco Police in my pocket. It just makes me smile and takes me back. And for those of you that do still have a father, because my father passed away. If you guys still have a father, please, man, guys, don't waste time that you could spend with your father. It is a crucial thing. I wasted so many years of not coming home to visit because I was like, I want to take my vacation and do something else. And I went to other countries and I did stuff, and I just never came home and spent that time I could have spent with my father, because I always thought there was just going to be time. And then I retired, and I was busy, and I started my own family, and I never came back. I saw my father like 5 times in 25 years. And when the time that we did have, it was special because we didn't get much of it. But don't waste that time. If you still have access to your parents, don't waste that time. And I feel bad because I financially can't go right now, and my mother is ill and I just can't financially go. I can't just pick up and go across the country. I don't, one, financially have it, and two, there are so many other things that have to happen. So if you can afford to spend that time, especially around the holidays, which is the reason it's pops into my head, because I don't know if you guys know, my dad passed away on Christmas. My dad passed away Christmas night a few years back. So yeah, Spyderco makes some good shit. There was a time period there where I was really critical about Spyderco. Not as much as Benchmade, but I was pretty critical of Spyderco's business practices and what they were doing. And sprint, I still don't like the sprint runs, mainly because I don't like the colors that they release their sprint runs in. You know what I mean? It's always like I had to RIT dye this one so that it just wasn't, they were teal. And it was a lighter teal than my CME that's on this. And it's not that it was closer to the color of this. Like it was closer to that. And yeah, these are those plackers. I use them as picks. I will tell you right now, we go through a bunch of these and my wife was like, why are we always out of these? I use these to clean in things because they're nice and flexible and thin. I have to get my own. Or I need to get a set of those plastic picks because I'll use these until I break the tip off of it because I have dental floss. I don't use these. And I use them as picks to clean in things and get into areas where I want a little bit of flexibility. And my wife goes nuts. She's like, how many of those do you have on your workbench? Why don't you throw them away? I was like, oh, I don't use those. I'm just using the pick. But that's about the color it was. And so I dyed this with sapphire blue RIT dye, and I love the way it looks, and it's picked up some dirt and patina. I need to take it apart and clean it really good, but this was a gift from one of the guys that was paying member, Zorro, and I really, really dig it. So Spyderco does make really good knives. Like, people are like, oh, they're so expensive. I was like, but the fact is, like, you kind of are getting what you pay for. There are some that I think are a little overpriced, like their FRN stuff is a little bit pricey in my opinion, but they're still a very good knife. They're doing a very good product. And you're not going to find a company that makes, well, you will find another company that you're not going to find many companies that make more American-made knives than Spyderco. The only one I know of is the Endura is like my favorite series of knives, which is why I like this so much. Because this is, I have said for years that the Police, the Endura, the Delica, and the Indela are just various different sizes of the same knife. I have had so many Enduras. They are, as far as functional, I think they are probably one of the best functional and comfortable knives you'll ever own. But this falls into that Endura series, if you ask me, because of the handle shape. So does the Matriarch 2, because it's basically it's an Endura handle. The only company that I know that makes more of their knives in the United States that isn't like custom-made knives like, I guess you could say maybe Greg Medford and a couple of other companies, but like pumping out large numbers of knives that are all American made, Microtech. And their stuff is amazing. And the fact is, like I've said it in a bunch of videos, their prices have actually went down over the years. This knife is about $140 less than the first folding Microtech I bought that was $450. These are about $310. And this is better. This is a better knife than my first Microtech DOC. Actually, the Whale Shark was the first one I had, but I got it and the DOC at the same time. This is an amazing knife. This is my favorite knife of all time. I have knives in my collection that are well over $1,000, and this is better. I don't even, oh, see, the 4-year-olds have returned. Just put them in timeout. Because it's just, like, people are like, why do you do that? Like, he might have something to say. No, if he had something to say, he would have said it to begin with. Yeah, absolutely incredible. The best knife I've ever owned. And the fact that they've upped their quality and lowered their prices incredible. And just such a good cutter. I'm probably going to end this though, guys. I've got a bunch of stuff I need to do. I started a little bit late because I had, like I said, new job. I have to get fingerprints, background check stuff done. So it's part of the pre-hire process. So that's going on. And plus, like I said, I was in the hospital getting my heart monitored because I had an irregular heartbeat yesterday, and I'm not allowed to have any caffeine. So I'm running on, well, I had a cup, which that's not enough. If you knew the massive amounts of coffee that it takes to run this body, it's like nap time. I'm like, fuck, how do people live like this? My buddy was like, well, I don't drink any coffee. I was like, how do you live like that? Like, he's like, I don't drink coffee. I don't drink caffeine. No coffee, no caffeine, no tea. Like, kind of fucking weirdo are you? So at any rate, guys, yeah, we'll end it. I want to try and film some stuff today. Definitely going to film a video about this. I'll be live probably tomorrow. I'll think of a topic that we can talk about. I was debating whether I was even going to do this live feed today, and I was like, you know what? Screw it. They seem to like, you know what? We can go another 20 minutes if you want. Here's another company, makes all their stuff in the US, TKL. So I guess there are a couple, but like this is basically a custom knife. So let me see here. Oh, he hears my daughter. Sorry. Debating. What do you guys want? Do you guys want to talk about? You have any topics you want? Oh, somebody asked about Crucible. I don't know what's going on with Crucible. Somebody asked about Crucible Steel. And their possible bankruptcy. So I don't know enough about it. I know that Crucible is in Niagara. Well, that's Niagara Specialty Metals, but they do all the Crucible stuff. Here's my thing. I don't know what's going on enough about that to talk about it, but, and I've said this a bunch of times, people hated Guy over at Survive Knives, and with good reason. He was a brilliant knife maker, but he was a garbage businessman. The knives that I saw that he had made were immaculate. They were insanely good. But he just didn't have that ability to step away from something and let somebody else take steps in the process. And he basically bankrupted the company. I think there was some mental illness that was going on there, possibly some substance abuse, growing up around someone that was, Chunk, get in here. Hey, no. Growing up around people that had substance abuse issues, you kind of learn to recognize it. But he was not wrong about issues with the CPM stuff, the Crucible, or the what was it, CPM? Was it Crucible? Am I getting it mixed up? Does Crucible make 20 CV, or is that Carpentry's? I can't remember. At any rate, I really don't know enough about it. I know that I had problems with 20 CV and things like that. So if that's not Crucible, is that CPM? Is that Carpenter's? God damn it. I think they're two. I think I'm getting them mixed up. I think I'm getting Crucible and 20 CV. I think I'm getting it mixed up. Oh yeah, Crucible. Okay, so yeah, the problems. Sorry, I was right. The problems that he had with his run of steel that he was having, inclusions and things like that, absolutely happened with me. Happened with Elliot Williamson, I believe. I don't want to talk out of turn. If I remember correctly, We Knife Company said they had issues with 20 CV. I had a whole bunch of blanks that I had to scrap that I had done in 20 CV. No, I wouldn't. I had a bunch of stuff that I had done in blanks that I had done in 20 CV that I had blown out water jet. And then when I started doing surface finish, just could not use them. I couldn't use them. I had one that I had done a knife for, and there was, let me see, where's the knife that I want to use as an example? We'll grab it, it's over here. You guys know what sanmai looks like, right? Where you have a laminated steel. So you can see the line where the jacket steel here, and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. You can see the line where the jacket steel on both sides of it, where your center material is down the middle. It's called sanmai. I had a knife blank that had enough jacket material from the canister left on it when it got rolled. They didn't grind off all the canister. I had one that looked like that when I first started grinding. And so I told the guy, I was like, I did the heat treat on it, it was fine. But I was like, I can't do the finish you want because you're going to see that line on the spine. And he was like, that's fine. He's like, if you want to change. So I just gave it a really heavy stone wash after a blast, after bead blasting it. And I was like, that's ridiculous. They let that leave the factory. I had more than one of those, but some of them weren't as bad. It was like towards the edge of the plate where they blew out those things, because I purchased a half a plate of steel and I had all of my blanks cut out of it. And there was a lot of money involved in buying that much material. And so I complained, and they were like, oh, well, there's nothing we can do about it, this and that. And then the inclusions, and I showed Elliot. Elliot was like, hey, are you seeing these little black marks on your knives when you're finishing them? I was like, yes. And he showed me a bunch of blades that had come back and had been rejected from his run of knives he was having made. And he was like, they look like this, right? It looked like somebody had just written on them with black magic marker, like little lines on it. And they were in the steel. And I was like, yes, I'm absolutely having that same problem. So regardless of whether Guy over at Survive Knives was garbage or not, he wasn't wrong about the steels. What category does ARPM 9 fall in? So ARPM 9, they said it was a powdered metallurgy. It's not. It's not powdered metallurgy. What did they call it? Spray deposited. It's a really good budget steel, regardless of whether there was an issue with how they named it as to being powdered metallurgy versus sprayed. It's still a really good steel. So all of my sea snake design, which is another knife you should pick up for Christmas, all of these are done in ARPM 9, with the exception of a small run of 100 that was done for Blade Show West. They were a limited edition run. All of them are in this, and I absolutely love it. It's a very, very good steel. It's not 9CR though. It's not 9CR. Everybody's like, oh, it's the same. No, it's not. There are changes in the formula. That's like trying to say S110 and S125 are the same. They're really similar. They're based on the same base formula, but there's been changes, like 9CR and 14C, like 9C, or not 9C, 12C, 14, or not 14C and 12C. The Sandvik steels. They're based on the same base formula, but they're different. So it's not 9CR, it's its own thing. And comparing steels, like doing that, when people do that, I've said it a bunch of times, it's like comparing apples and watermelons. They're so far removed. It is a similar formula, but it's as different as ATS. Where am I going with this? It's as different as the original 440 formula that they used, that then they turned into ATS 34. And then ATS 34 is a very, very similar steel to 154 CM. They are almost identical, but they are different. So it doesn't take a lot in a form, some effects on it. Like 9CR does not respond to a strop as well as the ARRPM 9 does. It doesn't. And ARRPM 9 responds really well to something like newspaper or phone book paper on a block of wood. It is about the best strop you're going to find for it. And I mean, it's really resilient. It holds its edge well. It's easy to sharpen. So it's in that same category as 9CR, like those budget steel. 9CR is not a bad steel. It really is not a bad budget steel at all. But it was designed specifically for knives. And so it's got some additions that make it a little bit different. And people are like, oh, there's not enough of that in there. There's not enough of the cobalt in there. There's not enough of this in there. But it doesn't take a lot to start seeing some differences in how it responds to certain things. Like adding molybdenum to a steel you don't need much to affect a drastic change in the resilience of that steel. So that's just my take on it. I like it. I think for a budget steel, you're not going to do much better. It's way better as far as rust resistance than some of your other budget steel options like D2, which D2 can be very, very rust prone. So it just depends on the person and what they want, what they like. I've changed my opinions on steels over the years several times. So, but I haven't changed. Like people, like when it first came out, they're like, well, you know, ARPM design's not powdered metallurgy, right? When are you going to apologize for telling everybody it was? I was like, why? I didn't make that steel. Like I only go off of what the company tells me. If the company says it's powdered metallurgy, I'm going to say it's powdered metallurgy. Why do I have anything to apologize for? It's still a good budget steel. It's still a very, very good steel overall. AUS 8, if heat treated very well, which, by the way, cold steel has some of the best AUS 8 out there. Still a very, very good steel. If you do a good heat treat on most steels, you're going to come out with something good. So I don't know yet how this AUS 10 is as far as sharpening. I do know that there were some problems with AUS 10 when it first came out. You couldn't deburr it. Now, I don't have an issue with this, with a burr or anything. It came out great. So I don't know. We'll have to revisit that later. I told you I owe everyone that told me that they carry one of these and I said you were dumb. I owe every one of you an apology because I just had no idea how easy this is to carry. And it still has some problems. It's got some limitations. It definitely has some limitations. But I don't think I should have been as critical as I was. And I mean, this one needs to break in. It's definitely a better carry than this one. It's definitely much more functional than this one. What's up, Scabby? Scabby. Go check out Scab's channel. Choir Boys Cutlery Outdoors. Go check him out. His channel is amazing. And you should definitely check out the video he did about that fixed blade that I sent him from KATSU Knives. No, I don't like the way this carries in pocket, and I don't find it to be as functional of a blade shape. I love the kukri idea. This would be something I would put in a pack and go camping, but as far as putting it in my pocket and thinking it's going to be a overall useful knife. On the farm, this would be great. Growing up on a farm, like I said, putting this in my pocket and using this to whip open some feed bags and stuff, a big knife like this, fucking chopping fucking baling twine and stuff like that. This would be great. I don't think that I would have wanted, plus the edge profile on this one is not quite as good as this one. That KATSU is fucking great. I love it, and I wish I could have tested it more effectively. But I know I sent it to the right place, and I sent KATSU a link to that video, and I think they shared it. They are great folks to work with. If you don't know, Scab did a video about a knife that I sent him. It was the FB02 by KATSU. It was a fixed blade knife. Really, really good outdoor knife that they did. And I knew it was going to perform well, and he really seems to like it. I told him he'd keep it because I've got so many other knives. And but if you haven't, you go check it out. You need to go see that video. And just remember that if you like it, you can use coupon code crazysharp to save 10% at checkout. So, but guys, I think I'm gonna end it here. I want to get this all cleaned up. I have a bunch of stuff I have to do to submit for my background check and guard card and stuff like that for this upcoming job opportunity. So I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna get some sleep because I didn't get much sleep at the hospital. And I definitely haven't had any caffeine. I've only had 1 cup of coffee today, which is about 8 less than I would have had at this point in the day. And I'm just not, I'm not feeling all energetic and I'm not feeling myself at the moment. I feel as though something is missing from my life, which would be coffee. If you guys don't know, I don't do well without coffee. It's a dangerous, like me not having coffee, that's dangerous for everyone. That's not a safe scenario for me to not have coffee. And I do kind of feel that the lack of caffeine headache starting behind my eyes. It's gonna get bad. I'm gonna taper myself off. I may have a small cup of coffee here a little bit later, just to taper myself off and then work my way down to the 0 coffee. But I'll keep you guys in a loop what's going on with that. It's not a big deal. They told me not to really get too concerned unless it started happening more often or just didn't stop. Like if I was having an irregular heartbeat and it just didn't stop, because I had 10 minutes, maybe 10 or 15 minutes on Saturday that it did it, and then like maybe 5 minutes yesterday, but I was like, okay, we need to get this checked. So guys, I'll talk to you later. I love you all. If you can find one of these are actually really, really cool. Like I said, this was a gift, so you guys can see it again. This is the Military Armament Corporation Mark II. This is their version of the Gerber Mark II. And it's definitely cool. So guys, that's it. I love y'all. Take it easy. Check out the videos that are up. Make sure you go check out yesterday's video about that mini Labrador. And if you like that knife, you can use any of my affiliate links that are down below to purchase knives, and they don't cost you anything extra at checkout. Just support the channel. So I love you guys, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.